Welcome to the EEE360 video for lab number 13, the synchronous motor, part 1. For today's lab, we'll be using the following components. We'll be using the AC power supply, the AC ammeter, as well as the synchronous machine. Now we're viewing the inside of the synchronous machine from the front. Let's point out some of the key components. First, we have the stator windings. Next, we have the rotor, and obviously the rotor is the rotating portion of the machine. On the rotor, there's the squirrel cage. Those are the silver metal spikes there on the outside, and those allow this motor to start as an induction machine. On the rotor, we have the rotor windings. There's the other set of rotor windings. Now we're viewing the synchronous machine from the rear of the motor. Let's point out some of the key components. First, we have the slip rings. See, those are two bands of copper there. And as the rotor turns, this is how we're going to be able to excite the rotor. The other components are the brushes, and we have a brush on each side. And again, as the rotor rotates, this allows us to excite the rotor with DC excitation. In this lab, we're not going to be using the rotor windings at all. Now let's take a close look at the front panel of the synchronous machine. In the lower left-hand corner, we have connections to the stator windings. In the lower right-hand corner of the machine, we have the connections to the rotor. In order to actually excite the rotor, we need to make sure we turn the switch in the up position. We're not going to be using the rotor windings in this lab, so we're going to turn that switch off. And now we're ready to make the connections to the synchronous machine. The TA, Harshada, will be making the connections for us. First, we're going to start from A phase through the ammeter. From the ammeter to the A phase connection on the synchronous motor. Next, we'll connect the B phase to the stator windings. And finally, we'll connect the C phase stator winding to the C phase power supply. It's important that we want to connect the stator windings in Y, so we're going to short the other side of the terminals to create the neutral point of our Y connection. And now we have all of our connections properly made. And now we're ready to energize our circuit. First, we'll just turn on the power supply. And we note that the motor is now indeed turning. Let's take a close look at our current reading. And we can see here that our current reading is exactly 1.0 amps. And now, students, it is your turn to experiment with the synchronous machine as outlined in your laboratory manual.